Playoff best ball is just around the corner. One more week, week 18, to decide all of our matchups, who gets in, who gets the bye, all of that good stuff. We talk a lot about best ball strategy. We draft a lot of playoff best ball teams around here, but some unique ways to put teams together. How can we get first in these tournaments without just having to perfectly predict the playoff bracket? That's what we're going to get into today. I got my boy B. Kurt joining me today. We're going to talk about how to build teams in a slightly different manner that can give us just as much playoff upside, but maybe an easier path to first place, the millions of dollars, the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Let's do it. So I wasn't sure if I was going to bring it up, but I figured it's going to come up at a certain point on this. Bernie was so excited to be talking playoff best ball today here with us that he just about sliced his entire freaking finger off yesterday. This best ball season has been so good to the Spike Week community that we didn't ship any tournaments. Rob was in the hospital this week with a pretty serious infection, and Bernie about sliced off an appendage just in the last couple of days. So I probably need to stay like in bed all day or something.
Stay in the basement. It'll be fun.
We're gonna stay down here, get the bomb shelter going or something, because it doesn't seem like it's going well for the Spike Week fan. But we're gonna have a good time today, talk about some playoff strategy stuff. We did super quick housekeeping. We did expire our December discount that we were running, but you can still sign up for the Spike Week tools. There's a link in the description. You can pay monthly, you can pay annually, $200 a year, $40 a month, whatever you so choose to get you covered for. You'll see some of our tools and stuff here today. Draft IQ, all the playoff stuff, Draft Hacker. We got baseball coming. We got golf coming, all of that different stuff. We cover all the sports, right? So NFL is over. You might be taking a break, but maybe you want to dabble in some of these other sports. We got you covered with one subscription. What we're going to talk about today, as I mentioned, and I know obviously you know Bernie, is we spend so much time like, which teams do you like? Which players do you like? You know, should you go all in on one Super Bowl? Do you do 4-2-2-2? How many quarterbacks do you take? All of that fun stuff. And it's like, I simultaneously love it, but hate it, because the answer is always like, it depends, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think what is like the most under-discussed thing, including by me, frankly, is like, how do we do something that's a little bit different, but doesn't have anything to do with like, how many quarterbacks do you take and like that kind of stuff. So like, I want to talk about some of the things that we can do, the levers that we can pull, and maybe, you know, some of your favorites. I'll toss a couple out there and you can run with kind of what jumps out to you the most. Some things we can do in drafts, right? Build a Super Bowl that no one else is building. It may be very low probability. The Bears versus the Texans, right? Like, that is probably not going to be the Super Bowl this year, right? And we are drafting it as such. They're all pretty right outside of like Nico Collins or whatever. They're all pretty cheap. Do you pair some like really low probability Super Bowls? We have occasionally seen that, very rarely, but occasionally. You know, think back to the Bengals year, right? When the Bengals make a run to the Super Bowl against the Rams. That was a Super Bowl that if you showed up with that in the final, you were like one of the only teams that could even field it, because it was so unlikely. But that's tricky, right? Then another unlikely Super Bowl, but more so from getting it to the final, is like double bye, right? I know you and I were heavy on that last year. This year, it's a little weirder. And certainly right now, it's a little murkier with the double bye stuff. It's very hard to get a double bye team to the final of a playoff best ball tournament. And then there's like the lowly, like projected players, or like the kind of off the wall players where it's like, it's kind of a chalkier Super Bowl, but Tyrell Shavers is going to come save the day. You know what I mean? Like, some different things to do. And those are all interesting to different people in different ways and all that kind of stuff. What jumps out the most to you in terms of like, when you think of a unique strategy to put together?
Well, it's so interesting because all those three things you mentioned there have so many ripple effects, and we could take them and talk about each one of those for an hour. Because, like, for example, your Texans Bears Super Bowl, you could do that 5 different ways. You could just hammer, hey, that's all I'm taking, or I'm taking 3 teams max. But you could be like, I'm taking Nico, and then I'm waiting until round 8 and then I'm filling out the rest or whatnot. And I'm just going to take one-offs or high probability things to get me through ahead. When I'm thinking about the unique stuff myself, it's really where am I going to take my turns away from the Super Bowl? So I want to do unique things that other people aren't doing. So the two that come to mind are maybe it's a first round one-off, a Josh Allen one-off. There's not a whole lot of intelligent best ball players that are proactively trying to do that. But you just mentioned the Tyrell Shavers of it. Who do you really want with Josh Allen at their price? No one. If Shakir was four rounds later, sure.
The first name I came up with was Tyrell Shavers. I think that tells you everything you need to know about that question that you just asked.
Yeah. Like if you get Cook, like great, cool. But like most people aren't. The other thing I think about besides the one-off is, okay, how do I just construct this different? And something like using Ramondre as your wild card running back. And then I'm building out by running backs through the rest of the team. That's something not a lot of people have the guts for. Because if I'm going CMC, they're going to get Ken Walker, they're going to get DeAndre Swift, they're getting Omarion Hampton, something way above that on the ADP list. But hey, I took CMC. That's my Super Bowl buy running back. I'm going to punt running back altogether, wait for Ramondre. Maybe take Ramondre a little bit ahead because I know he has the skill set we might need. Could he flop? Absolutely. Your team's out. Oh, well. But Ramondre has a role, and could he fall in the end zone twice? And now you've loaded up the rest of your team with wide receivers, quarterbacks, and tight ends to get you through.
So
those are the types of things I'm like kind of thinking about.
I love it. So let's talk about and I see you guys' comments in the chat. I promise we'll hit on as many of them as we can. Including the ones where you Trevor Bauer yourself, which is a very loaded comment in many regards, but I did enjoy
that. Was good. Shout out the Toon Squad, Clayton Toon playing this weekend.
Yeah, exactly. That is fitting. Let's talk about the like one-off thing, because like you said, we could definitely talk about each one of these things for like hours, and that is kind of what we do, being obsessed with this silly game. But I think that's the one that I've sort of sunk my teeth into the most over the course of the last 2 years. I will say it has paired a lot with the bye week teams. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about that. That's a more difficult challenge this year, I think, the bye week teams, as opposed to Chiefs, Lions last year was a little bit more straightforward from the bye weeks. However, the like when to take one-offs, again, whether or not you're drafting buys, whether like if you're drafting the Bills, you probably need some form of secondary help, right? Whether it's one-off or I always call them like secondary stacks or second, like you can take JSN and Charbonnet or whatever, mm-hmm. right? And that's they're one-offs, but they could still fit into your team. Like there's a lot of builds, and this was the huge thing last year, where like all of the teams we like to go to the Super Bowl needed help to get there, right? It was Bills, it was bye week teams. It was like the first round was none of the teams we really like to go to the Super Bowl. This year's a little bit different in that regard. So how are you thinking about like your preference sort of in that like when do I dip in and out of the bye weeks and then or out of the one-offs, and then like let's use either Josh Allen or CMC or JSN or something, right? Mm-hmm. Just for this CMC or JSN in this regard, in this instance, do not get the bye. You're using them as like a powerful one-off or a James Cook or whatever. Yeah. Now, I've sort of locked myself out of some potential Super Bowls by taking my one-off early, right? That's why people love to take that guy, because it's like, I know I have that Super Bowl now. What are you then doing to pair with it on your like Super Bowl pairings? You take a CMC one-off or something.
Yeah, so let's focus on JSN, because JSN's a good person for being a one-off early, because if they lose this weekend, they lock in the 5 seed. Okay, 5 seed against Carolina or Tampa Bay. I really like JSN, especially on DraftKings.com.
Whereas to be clear, you're saying JSN for the people because we can't guarantee what CMC's seed will be he's not guaranteed the 5. Seattle, if they lose, they're the 5. If they win, they're the 1. San Francisco could be 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Rams, could be a different seed.
Yeah. So we're drafting Sunday morning right now. Seahawks have the 5 seed. Maybe I don't want that. Maybe I'm using JSN to get a double bye through. Maybe we have a Denver and San Francisco double bye. So I go JSN, Kittle, then load Broncos and mix in Jennings and Pearsall and whatever else you need. But the double bye is so thin to get through in these 1 out of 6 contests that you can't just take. You can. I've done it. It doesn't work out very well. If you just take 6 double bye players and then 6 non-bye players, like it just
that's how people
you're
do
projecting
it
so awful.
Yeah.
That's how they do it. I do it myself on occasion. Like whatever. I dabbled with it this week 2 or 3 times, including on your stream the other day, and it's just fucking bleak, to be honest.
Yeah, you're taking the last round guys and stuff you're taking that you absolutely have to use their score in round 1 it's rough.
Yeah, it's Cooper Kupp or whatever. And you're just like, this sucks. So I actually stopped drafting double bye until after this weekend. Because then I'll get Tat or I'll get the Ravens guys. The player pool will just expand a little bit more for me. So
Adam Thielen, you'll get excited to draft Darnell Washington.
Yeah, broken arm. I don't think we're doing that. So anyways, back to JSN. So we'll take JSN early, plan out the double bye, go for the double bye. But then depending on how that works out, dictates the rest of that roster. Sam Darnold is absolutely in play because on double bye, I like stacking a quarterback with a wide receiver or a tight end. But okay, well, we're in the last rounds. And if I just throw on AJ Barner, I get 2 Super Bowl matchups instead of just the 1. I'd probably do it, depending on what else is there. Because sometimes if you just take JSN, the rest of the Seahawks fall. Okay, well, now I got to reevaluate. Do I really want to this just be the double bye and that's my only Super Bowl matchup, or do I squeeze in a second one? And I like that more with like the pass catcher. So, JSN gets 2 touchdowns. Darnold throws like 3 or 4 and Barner falls in the end zone or whatever. Like you can do a little bit of that, but I'm not super stacking this. I'm not putting 4 Seahawks on that or something like that. You'll see people do that, and it is so terrible.
I think that's what happens a lot of the time. And sometimes you just get in the zone. Sometimes, maybe you're using the draft hacker or a tool or something like that. And you're still in the like, I need players from this team. I need to fill out this Super Bowl and kind of stuff. And then it's happened to me before, right? You're like, I'm building this double bye team or this heavy bye team, or like I need juice in the first round. And then like it's happened to me with the Jags a lot because they've been so easily attainable for a lot of this, and they fill in really nicely for if you need first round and overall playoff upside. And I'm like, shit. Trevor Lawrence better throw 6 touchdowns, in this, you got Lawrence and Etienne. And then it's like, you also have the running back and it's like, Etienne's got to like,
he's got to catch
touchdowns. Yeah. And then you have Strange. It's like, so Strange has to fall in the end zone. Etienne needs to have a receiving touchdown and Parker Washington needs 100 yards and a touchdown. Like, it's like, and we're talking about
thin.
We're talking about playoff games with the best teams and the best defenses and all that kind of stuff. And so it's like you're really drawing thin. And so there is this fine line that we have to toe. And that's why we're talking about things like, take a JSN 1 off so that you don't back yourself into Cooper Kupp better score 15 points, right? Or B, Trevor Lawrence better throw 6 touchdowns in a playoff game. You don't want to be in those two sides. You want to find this little middle ground. And there are ways to explore that without necessarily, building in the same way that everybody else is. Like you said, you don't have to wait till the end to get those guys. You don't have to like completely load up on a team. There's like all this little minutia, right, that you can do. I've tried out Kyren one-offs and Saquon one-offs and James Cook one-offs and, like you said, Josh Allen. I'm testing these different things out, but I think there's a lot of different paths we can take. I do want to talk. We're going to draft a couple teams. I do want to talk about the double bye thing because last year, for anyone that if you're new to us and this channel, clearly it didn't work. Shout out to the Lions. But I felt really good about it. And actually, in turn, because we were so bye-week focused, it actually worked out really, really well for me because the teams that it helped me get, I kind of luck boxed in that way. But the Chiefs, of course, had the bye last year and made the Super Bowl. The Eagles did not. But if you built teams for Chiefs, Lions, Super Bowls last year, you could have still ended up with some Eagles. And of course, you would have ended up probably with Commanders, and you would have ended up with Ladd McConkey and Nico Collins and Zach Ertz and Terry McLaurin and Joe Mixon, RIP. And like there was all this stuff that ended up working out really well. This year, not only is it not clear who's going to get the bye, the Broncos are pretty close to locked in, but not locked in. And who knows in the
maybe
NFC,
Trey Lance just whoops them.
Right. I mean, anything is possible technically with Bo Nix. I would not be shocked. But it should be the Broncos, and then it should be and then it's one of two teams in the NFC. But we don't have it locked in yet. And the Broncos are not the Chiefs, spoiler. And the 49ers and the Seahawks are not even like by any like analytical metric, betting market, whatever, are not the best teams in the NFC. It's the Eagles and the Rams. And so how are you handling that with the bye week stuff where it's like last year was like, I don't know, man, Lions Chiefs is like the most likely Super Bowl. These are probably the best two teams. Whereas this year it's like, I don't even know if those are the best teams. Do I want them? But nobody's drafting for it, right? There's all this weird minutia this year.
And I think we were right last year with the Chiefs and the Lions. And then the Lions just got so injured. Even because we did this show right before the last weekend last year, because I remember we talked about Minnesota versus Detroit heading into the final weekend. And I was like, I don't know, man. I think Minnesota is just going to take it. And like, we've already drafted a ton of Lions. And I'm like, I think Minnesota's taking the NFC. They didn't. Sam Darnold got exposed. And now we're here back again a year later. Oh, is Sam Darnold going to get the bye?
Yeah.
And like, I remember that, and I'm thinking in my head, if Sam Darnold gets the bye, I don't know if I want to trust him. If Bo Nix gets the bye, I don't know if I want to trust him. But like last year when it's Pat Mahomes and it's, Gibbs and all them, like, okay, I trust those.
Mm-hmm.
So what we really have to decide is, are we in a Ryan Tannehill Titans situation? Or, hey, these home teams are getting the bye, they're getting the rest. Let's go for it. I've been heavy go for it on the Broncos. I don't know if they're any good. Like, obviously they're good, but I don't feel nearly as confident or strong as when we were doing this last year about those teams.
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep doing the Broncos. The price is right. The market's totally off them.
They're so cheap. Oh my gosh, they're cheap.
And they just let you do so many things. I'm going to keep doing it. But if somebody out there right now is just like, I've watched it, I don't believe, I'm not clicking a Bronco, especially if they get the bye. If you don't believe in the Broncos and they get the bye, that's a super easy fade. Mm-hmm. Hey, I'm going to pick the Bill in that spot. I'm going to pick the Charger, whoever it is. And now you're getting points all through the rounds as opposed to missing out on all those wild card points. Then maybe you get them in round 2 and they lose or whatever. Like, if you want to just X out Broncos, sure. You could also X out Seahawks if they get the bye.
Mm-hmm. And that's the interesting thing is, so the Titans, which hilariously Vrabel, there's a lot of pieces of that team floating around these playoffs this year, Derrick Henry and AJ Brown and what have you. But anyway, that's the thing I think. And here's my experience from what the average playoff best ball drafter thinks about this exact situation. The Titans are not the best team. They end up with the best record, right? That year, if you recall, that was like Mahomes, Lamar, Josh Allen. It was like they might have been the 4th best team in the AFC, but they happened to have the bye. And so as you said, the consensus, which was right, was like, let's not overdraft the Titans, even though they're the 1 seed, right? But let's not go crazy because they're still not the favorite to make the Super Bowl. And then I don't get to use them in round 1. They might lose in round 2, which I believe they did, right? They lost to the Chiefs, I think, in round 2.
It's been a minute. I don't remember.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's like, if you correctly fade that team, it's a huge advantage.
Yes.
But also, I think that's the common sentiment is like, I don't really believe in that team, and I'm not going to get them in round 1. Now, when I draft them, I got to draft differently. Like, this is so much harder than just fading, right? It's so much easier to just fade them. But this year is not that. I keep going back to this on the Broncos. Spoiler alert, I don't fucking believe in that team either. Like, everybody's like, like if you ever say like I think the Broncos are really undervalued in playoff basketball, they're like, you like the Broncos? I'm like, fuck no, I don't like the Broncos. I watched Bo Nix play too, dude. Like, I don't believe in this team at all. But no one believes in them, and there might not be Lamar. There is, and this ain't that Lamar anyway. There is no Mahomes. Yeah, there is no Mahomes. This is not those Bills teams, right? We're watching these Bills. The Bills team's getting like shut out, right? Getting dominated by the Texans, dominated by the Eagles, losing to the Patriots and all these teams. So anyway, it's like why not us, right? That these teams use these cheesy things, but it's like, why not? The Denver Broncos are going to have home field advantage throughout these entire playoffs, and they're totally free. So I keep coming back to that when I find myself like gravitating, like you just fall into the rhythm of drafting, and I'm like, I haven't taken Broncos in quite a while, and it's like I want to make it a decent pillar. I don't want all my chips in this playoff basketball on the Denver Broncos. But if it's like we're doing like overweight, underweight type, right? Are you drafting 8% of this guy or 15% of this guy over the summer? Like, this is a 15% situation, not an 8% situation to me, just because I think it's so advantageous.
So I am doing like 40% Broncos. I was thinking about this the other day. I'm going to try to do like 40% Broncos, 20% Pat. I'm going to get the math wrong. 25% Pats, 25% Jags, 10% Bills the rest of the way.
And
so overweight,
and you're fading the Ravens stuff.
I mean, if they make the playoffs, I might add them. I'm adding in a Henry if I super need him right now, I guess. But if they're in this weekend, I'm probably not going to play him Super Bowl. We'll see. If like Lamar comes out and looks great, that's going to change everything in my mind. If he comes out and he looks like he has leg injuries and his back sore, I'm probably not adding him to Super Bowl lineups. We might use him for advanced piece or whatnot. But so like, I'm just, because like we can't have, you could draft all 7 AFC teams as Super Bowl teams. I know people are like someone into that. Just like, I'm going to spread my whole portfolio all out. I like to kind of concentrate in. So I'm not really doing Houston Super Bowls. And I know there are a bunch of people that are. I'm using them. I'm not doing Super Bowls. If I happen to get it on the backside of secondary Super Bowl and it just fits, great. But I'm not like proactively trying. So those are the 4 teams I'm proactively trying. Broncos like 40%, Pats 25, Jags 25, Bills 10.
I like it. And then on your like Texans note, I think that's also the thing that's difficult to like describe sometimes, where you're like, this is not an active part of my like strategy, but sometimes you'll fall into it, right? Like the room just gives you, like sometimes the room just gives, like yesterday, I got like the full Eagles thing, right? And it's like, I don't know, you get back to the end and it's like, well, I need a tight end or whatever. And it's like Schultz, sure. And the next thing you know, you're like last round. Well, Jaden, what's the fucking difference between Jaden Higgins and one of these other guys? And now you got a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? And it wasn't intentional. You're not like targeting it, but it does happen.
Yeah, when you get the full Eagles thing, because I'm not doing much Eagles, but I'm willing if it just feels right or I haven't done it in a long time. You get the full Eagles thing, and you kind of walk away from that draft going, "Why aren't I doing this every time?"
I know, I know. I have to force myself not to do it. I mean, if people are using our rankings, they see how high the Eagles are, and that's another interesting one. Let's talk about some of these teams that are theoretically the best teams. Eagles and Rams stand out to me as that. Patriots a little bit. The market thinks it's the Bills. I'm going to do that first. That you mentioned, because I like this too from like a strategy perspective of like. You just can't draft it all. I think that's another thing that will happen to any of us in any form of basketball, but especially in playoff basketball, where like you don't really have that plan like you just outlined, where you're like, I'm going to bet on these 4 teams or whatever in the AFC and X. Right? We get so many questions about like, looks like the Panthers are going to make the playoffs. Do I need to draft the Panthers now? And it's like, why? Like, no, you do not have to. You may run into. you may run into a situation where you're like, shoot, I need T-Mac in the first round bad.
But that's it. They're asking, should we draft the team of the Panthers? Where really the answer is, yeah, you can draft a Panthers player.
Yes. Right. Which is fine. There's like always a situation where you might need some guy, right? I have drafted some guys I don't want in my portfolio, and it just happened.
There's some gross clicks I made. I'm not going to say like Tim Patrick.
I have non-zero Tim Patrick. I have non-zero Kendrick Bourne. I have non-zero. Yeah, it's gross. So anyway, you can understand that some of these teams have a chance to make the Super Bowl, right? We don't care who wins in this game. To make the Super Bowl and still say, I'm going to place my chips elsewhere. This is always the difficult conversation where we do this in the summer too. Like, you faded this guy. Don't you like, didn't that feel uncomfortable? Like, yeah, but I only get so many chips. I gotta place my chips on the things that I think have the best potential to grow into a lot more chips.
Yeah.
Right. And for me, this is not just who do you think is going to make the Super Bowl. I think the Bills have as good a shot of it as anybody to make this Super Bowl. But similar to like we were talking about with the double bye thing, where it's like, if I really don't like that team, I'm not going to get the first round scores out of them. I don't think they're that likely to make the Super Bowl anyway. I can just X that team out, right? Fade them, move them to the side. The Bills fit in that regard, where they definitely have as good of a chance to make the Super Bowl as anybody. They have Josh fucking Allen. Okay. Like, obviously. But Josh Allen is a first round pick. James Cook is essentially a first round pick. You can't even get those guys together very often. And they're the only two guys you want on the whole team. Dalton Kincaid is banged up, not scoring fantasy points anyway when he's out there. They don't have a wide receiver, right? Like week to week, it's like Shakir, sure. Like you said, if Shakir was cheaper, sure, maybe. Like Dawson Knox, Ty Johnson, Tyrell Shavers, Brandon Cooks, like none of these guys are really useful until maybe the conference finals, right? So you're
just hoping for a touchdown along the way for all those.
And so you're essentially drafting a bye week team, essentially, because you're only going to use them much later, and they might not get there. And the pieces you really want are at the beginning, which then prohibits you from getting the pieces on the NFC side that you would want, right? Every time you draft Josh Allen and or James Cook, you don't get the Eagles guys, you don't get the Rams guys, you don't get JSN, you don't get CMC. And so it's just like, it's like this checklist of like, hate that, right? hate that. And the only good thing is like, well, Josh Allen's awesome, you know, and the AFC is wide open. And so for me, I don't have zero Bills, but they are a stance that I'm pretty much taking away from them. Things will happen. I'll take James Cook one-offs, and it'll turn into the fact that I'll have like a Bills Super Bowl available with James Cook. But the Bills are one of those things that seem like you're nuts. That's stupid. But when you kind of talk it out with all these kind of things, that's why I'm drafting more Broncos than Bills, even though I think the Bills are probably better than the Broncos are.
Yeah. And I have a funny quirk in my process. I don't like to upload rankings. It's just, I like to see the board. I just feel better with the board, and I can judge how things are going to happen when I'm going off ADP. So I don't upload rankings much, but they're like, that's where I get my Josh Allen in my portfolio, is because his ADP is so high. And like, sometimes you miss the first round pick because you're doing all your life things. And like, oh, it started. Oh, a 2-minute clock down. The 2-minute clock down is absurd on DraftKings. I love DraftKings, but that just drives me nuts. And I forget so many times. Or like,
if you
like, I'll try to make coffee.
If you're 1 of 6, it may take forever. Like, it could fill pretty quickly, and you're still not going to draft for 10 minutes because the 2-minute clock down is insane.
Yeah. Right. So you go to start doing something, you come back and you're like, oh, I have Josh Allen. That's how I'm getting my Bills exposure.
Yep. So it's funny you say that. I also don't like to use ranking. You'll see me almost always sort by ADP. I have, however, started to upload rankings hilariously because of the Darren Waller gaffe on the 555 team, which really means I don't know why I'm uploading the rankings at all, because the best pick I made all season was an accidental auto click that was ADP based because I didn't have rankings uploaded in there. But in playoff best ball, it's a little bit different because I'm really aggressive with
more concentrated too.
Yeah, and it's like so team based, right? Like, so like kind of like a whole team moves up together, and so like if I'm autoing, I'm just like more likely to get the stack than I would in it, right? So anyway, minutia of the best balls. These are the things we think about, which is sickening. That's why Bernie chopped off his finger. He was he was angry that he
can't
auto
take any of this anymore. You know what I don't want? My index finger.
Yeah. So then kind of the last thing before we hop into some drafts. So we talked about like some of the double buy. I forgot I wanted to double back for the double buy thing. Again, let's just assume the Broncos get it. I think unless Trey Lance has figured out how to play football in the last couple of weeks.
I'm excited to watch it, but
yeah, it's going to be a train. If you like watching train wrecks or like sports injuries, like people like YouTubing, like watching the Kevin Ware's like bone pop out of his leg or Joe Theismann break his leg, you'll probably like the Trey Lance experience against Denver. But we assume that they win. We have two options in the NFC. How are you drafting both of those? Like right now, are you drafting just San Francisco like they'll get it? Are you drafting both teams like they will get the bye? How are you handling the NFC side?
So the NFC side, I'm only drafting San Francisco like they're getting it, and I'm not drafting San Francisco as a wild card team right now. My thought is, hey, if I draft San Francisco as a bye and they don't get it, hey, those teams are just extra loaded in the wild card round.
Yeah.
So that's how I'm playing it. I will be honest. I'm a 5% Seahawks guy. They are never a primary Super Bowl for me. They're the secondary Super Bowl. So I'm really not going out of my way to do them. They're really good at football. I'm just not a believer. I totally get it. If they get the bye and it all comes through next week, will I build a handful of double bye teams with the Seahawks? Yes. But I don't feel the need to do that when they have one good fantasy player. And I'm guessing they're going to get the bye.
So let's say you're building a San Francisco. The nice thing about Seattle, what I will say, I mean, frankly, both these teams pair with the Broncos from a double bye perspective.
Yeah.
Because the Broncos are so cheap. The Broncos make
they
double bye.
Unlock everything.
You can do whatever you want with it. But let's say, right. So and again, if you just tuned in, we're talking about some unique strategies that maybe our opponents aren't necessarily taking. That we're not saying this is what we predict is going to happen. But spoiler alert, if the 1 seeds in both conferences, right, the theoretical favorites, they're not the betting favorites, but the theoretical favorites to make the Super Bowl, they need to win one less game to make the Super Bowl.
They get home field advantage.
And they have home field advantage. If they make the Super Bowl, that is actually a very unique way to win a playoff best ball. It sounds counterintuitive until, of course, people understand the buys and the fact that the 1 seed isn't necessarily always the best team. However, this year more than most, there's going to be a little more double bye stuff, but I think they'll be even more poorly built because we've really had no idea who the bye week teams are going to be. Early on, I was building Broncos Rams double bye. Shout out to my Mike Evans exposure on my Broncos Rams that I just absolutely tanked those teams. Congrats guys on the money I gave to you, but you can build Broncos teams right now so easily. And so let's just say it's 49ers.
Yeah.
What's kind of some of your preference in terms of, okay, I know I want to build this double bye team. Nobody's going to build it that way, but how am I going to get this sucker through, right? Because I'm probably losing CMC, Kittle, Pearsall, RJ Harvey, Cortland Sutton. How do I fit those pieces together?
Yeah. So I think I was dabbling with earlier this week I mentioned, I think I tried it like 3 or 4 times on DraftKings. And I was trying to do 5 of the double bye players through the first 6 rounds, basically giving myself a one-off somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. I think right now you want to do 4. So you get your quarterback, you try to get Kittle because Kittle is a huge advantage on DraftKings.
Yeah.
If you don't get Kittle, okay, I'm waiting for Evan Ingram or Tonjes.
Especially because Ingram is useless.
I mean, they're just
speaking of the guys who I'm embarrassed to have in my portfolio. I drafted my first Adam Troutman share the other way. Somebody sniped me on Evan Ingram on a double bye team, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe I just drafted Adam Troutman with $20 US.
I'll wait to the end. You're not going to force me to take Evan Ingram in round 9 because I'm scared. We're just going to keep kicking that down the road, and if I have to Troutman,
and that's a big deal,
whatever
on the one-off that you're getting. The 12th round one-off versus the 9th round one-off is a huge difference on DraftKings.
And how many people are like, I'm going to do double bye, the tight ends go and they go, or, Kittle goes or whatever. And they're like, oh shit, I better get Evan Ingram. What's the difference between 5 points and 1 point? When you get to that stage.
Mm-hmm.
Probably nothing. Because you're probably not getting there. And if you do, nobody else got there.
Yep.
So the San Francisco guy can fall in the end zone too. Now, granted, he didn't get a whole lot of run once Kittle came back last time, but in regards to get balls, but so I'm not worried about that. So I think it's 4. I think, but also there's this thing of you don't really want Jaleel McLaughlin.
Mm-hmm.
So if I don't get CMC, I'm forcing Harvey. So there's some of those little aspects of like what supply and demand are on the teams also.
I will add a big piece for me. He's going to be probably one of my higher owned players, partially because I was drafting him a lot early. Pat Bryant back at practice.
Yep.
After I think that's a really, really big deal. He was emerging in a couple of games, surpassed Troy Franklin in routes run. And he ran more routes than Cortland Sutton a couple times, which is interesting. I know he's not putting up monster fantasy points, but I think when he's back to health, and assuming he is here by the time that they don't play, he won't play for a couple weeks. I know he's back at practice. I don't expect he's going to play here in week 18.
Why would you play him?
Yeah, no need to rush him back. It was a gnarly concussion. But if he's back in full-time wide receiver, you can get him whenever you want. Pat Bryant,
that's just it. You can do the wide receiver spot and the flex spot with Pat Bryant and then one of the 49ers guys.
Yep. Pearsall's price is great too, by the way, on those. Yeah.
Yeah, but if that's the case, if you're Pearsall round 11 wide receiver, round 12 wide receiver who's a flex, like you just gave yourself a whole lot of bye week help, advance rate pieces early in the draft, which most people aren't going to do.
Sorry, left on mute. So what about on the Seahawks side? I know you're not necessarily drafting for it, but just because people may listen to this, that game's tomorrow, right? Yeah.
I mean, I have, but I'm not like proactively. Yeah.
But so let's say they get it. Let's say Seattle is here's another example of like a San Francisco is a home dog to Seattle, right? So in terms of like the betting markets and like what we think and Seattle Seattle could be a home dog to the Eagles, but Seattle's a home favorite against the 49ers, and the 49ers might be the fucking 1 seed. It's like that's how weird all this stuff. It's very much Titans, like you said, in both conferences. It's very much Tennessee Titans, where they're obviously good and they're going to get the 1 seed, but no one, including the markets, think that they're the best team in their conference. That's going to happen on both sides, no matter who wins between Seattle and San Francisco. But let's say Seattle gets it, and the person, so Sunday morning people are drafting. How would you handle the Seattle? Again, we're assuming that Denver gets it. Does anything change because it's JSN in round 1 instead of CMC? And then all the rest of the Seahawks are free, 100%, like everybody else, besides sort of Ken Walker.
Yeah. So that Ken Walker is that hinge piece where I'm probably, if it's double buy, I'm probably tossing Ken Walker out unless he drops dramatically in my room, or he drops lower in price because everybody's scared off of the buy teams. Because I need players to get through. I'm going to probably go JSN, advanced race piece, Sutton, Harvey, then fit in, see if I can get Bo Nix to drop a little bit. Okay, now I'm prioritizing Charbonnet, but then you got Barner and Ingram towards the back. So it's going to be like super weird how people handle that situation. And I have a feeling the masses, if they're like, oh, I'm going to draft double buy, which they're probably not going to with those two gross teams, but they're going to like try to shove them up the board instead of just sitting back and waiting and being patient.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, I'm going to wait and be patient. And I'm sorry, Charbonnet is just the same pick as Ken Walker to me. So I'll take him 5 rounds later.
It's kind of crazy that the gap between the two of them. It's just this constant perception of what Ken Walker is versus what Sharps is. And I get it. Like, I'm not arguing that fact. I'm just saying from a fantasy, it's like, don't like become a nerd who doesn't watch the games anymore and doesn't see that Charbonnet is huge and slow and Ken Walker is lightning in a bottle. And just they scored about the same fantasy points, right? It just is what it is.
Each one could have 20. Each one could have 2. Okay,
right. Right, and we're saying this. It doesn't mean Ken Walker doesn't score 25 in round 1 and Sharp scores 2. It just means that they're both about as likely to outscore each other as the other one is. And
so I'm not paying for it.
Yeah, I will say I have teams that have both of that. I try to double buy. I missed Harvey, but then also like Sharps like fell, and I'm like, am I really going to take Rashid Shaheed over Sharps just cuz? And I'm like, nah, I'm going to take Sharps. And like, totally this is a very weird Super Bowl. But the last thing I wanted to touch on, because we didn't touch too much, maybe we can hit a couple of potential Super Bowls you might draft for that are a little bit more unique. But also, I just wanted to hit this on the double buy thing. It's not that we believe in this. It's like Seattle, Denver is not the, if you make me fill out a bracket, how many brackets would I have to get through before I get to that one? A fucking lot. Okay. Because I don't believe in that. But the other thing about it is not only do people not draft for it, there's multiple things. Nobody drafts for it, especially this year. No one will draft for it because no one believes in those teams.
Yep.
People that do draft for it, I don't think draft it well. Right. So like you said, they'll never take early one-offs, even though you don't need to like pull these two teams up the board. Seattle, Denver will be freely available to you in every single draft that you want to do if you want to draft this. And yet, like you said, people will pull them up and they'll be relying upon some trash late round. They need DJ Moore or whatever to score 20 to advance this team. Like Dawson Knox better catch 2 touchdowns, right? Or whatever in this game. So they draft them poorly. And the last thing is that it's so hard to get there that even if these guys have good games along the way, and it is the Super Bowl, Broncos, Seahawks, there's still so few teams that can field a full Super Bowl lineup that your expected value, if you make the final with it doesn't have to be perfect, right? Like you said, you got Cooper Kupp. You got Evan Ingram. You had to draft Adam Troutman. Who gives a shit? If he catches one pass, that could win you $1 million because there's so few teams that have that Super Bowl, right? That if you just have the right little combination, you have 6 full players on DraftKings or 5 on Underdog, like your expected value goes through the roof. And so it's a lower probability event, but it's one of those, what do you win when you win type situations? And the thing, you win all the money. Right, you win all the money. It's like, what do you win when you win if the Bills play the Eagles in the Super Bowl? It's like, fucking congrats. You and everybody else has a full Super Bowl team. And that's great. Like, I'll take that. But like, it's probably a chop, and you're just coin flipping when you get to the Super Bowl. So we're trying to avoid that.
And the other thing I'd add, what you were adding, like the reasons why, especially a double buy that nobody wants, to why we want to draft it, at least some. If you don't personally want it, like whatever, but why I'll do it is, okay, so the DraftKings contest is well over half full right now. And I will bet you there's very, very little Broncos Seahawks that are drafted as double buy.
Right.
Like maybe they're out there, but then somebody has 4 Bears along with it, and you're just not going to advance 4 Bears in 1-6. Right. So we're talking that, it's a huge final over 1,000 teams, but it's going to be extremely hard to get there. Nobody's going to do it. And guess what? The contest is over half full and nobody's done it. That's a pretty big selling point.
Yeah. I didn't realize it had gotten over half full. I just been ripping drafts without paying attention to.
Should have thrown it into Copilot, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. So let's go ahead and hop in. We can talk about some of these matchups and stuff as we go.
0-6.
0 out of 6. I've become a ghost. Bernie tried to become a ghost. He's chopping his limbs off as the week goes on. But no, we are 2 out of 6. That's interesting because the NFC's been so crazy that like you and I, a lot of people were drafting more like Rams for the bye. And then the thought, this is a month ago or whatever, the thought was like, okay, if the Rams don't do it, sure, the Seahawks can, but the Eagles will probably just like make a run, right? If the Rams don't get it, that you just feel like the cream rises to the top. And this year, more than any other year, of like, stop pretending you have any idea what the fuck is going to happen in these football games. It's like, well, the Chiefs will turn it around eventually, right? The Lions will turn it around eventually, right? Well, the Rams are just probably going to get this, and like the Rams lose to the Panthers and to the Falcons, and it's like the Rams are going to be the fucking 6th seed, you idiot. They're not going to be, they're not going to be the bye. It's so crazy, but that's like you said, the teams that have been drafted over the course of the last month in this tournament. Like, there's some great ones, I'm sure, out there, but they still got to get there. And like, they're probably not planning for these new Super Bowls that we now can draft for and draft intelligently for.
Yeah. And we I mean, I was like, oh, Rams are going to slide into the 5 seed worst case scenario. Oh, no, they get the NFC South. What a terrible thing. But now they're staring at going to Philly potentially. And I don't like that. But that's what we're going to look at in this draft here is we're probably looking at Rams or Eagles out of the 6th spot. So
have you been doing anything? I've been trying to think about out of the 106, which of course is where we are drafting. I take just a ton of Rams and Eagles, like you said, and then set up one of these other sides of the Super Bowl. The annoying thing is that Drake May never falls back to you anymore. He did early on, so you're locked out of the Patriots if you do that NFC. You're locked out of you could get Hurts in the Patriots side of things, but you're locked out of some things now on that side. So is there anything you've been doing at the back end of drafts? Because I found it to be a little bit tricky too.
I haven't done this yet, but I was pondering it this morning. Scroll down to Drake May. You're going to laugh. It's up, buddy.
Wait,
up. He is player 7.
Whoa.
Overall. He jumped yesterday.
He jumped Stafford. He's about to jump Saquon.
Yep. So I was looking at this and I was like, he just keeps moving up this ADP board. I'm never getting that 3rd round Drake May anymore. Damn. And I was like, what the hell is going on? Because I was trying to do San Francisco and New England with May. So the only thing back here we could do that is different is do Kittle May.
Oh, that's interesting.
Which nobody's going to do it. And it's basically becoming impossible to do on the other side of the board. Are there teams out there that probably have it with CMC? Yeah. So that's a risk. Like, do you want to play that game when somebody out there has it with CMC and you're just basically like, they're not going to advance. I am.
That's interesting. I don't mind that. Yeah, just now my brain's going crazy.
It's a twist. You asked me for something off the wall, man.
I know you weren't. You came prepared. That is for sure. So we have that obviously available to us. We have the Stafford Devontae thing. We have Devontae. One thing I do like doing I know we're staring down the barrel at the Philly thing, but it's like Devontae, Kyron, and build out AFC side of things.
I do that so much. That's probably one of my biggest builds right now is Devontae Kyron here.
Let's do that once just to try that out. If we do another draft, we'll do another draft. But just to see sort of so people can kind of see what that looks like. That's becoming like a not as chalky pairing as it once was, which is kind of crazy because they're both falling into the 2nd round. People are getting them with Puka a little bit more, but I think that's fine.
And the nice thing about doing it that way, as opposed to Stafford, which I've done as Stafford and one of them out of the 6 also, is we're basically just opening ourselves up to whatever in the AFC happens to come back, where you can still go Jags. You can go, we'll probably look at Broncos or some combination of Jags and Broncos or whatever it might be. Like, there's just a lot of options. What do you think about so May is just this huge 2nd round wild card. What are you going to do with him if he sits at ADP 8?
Not half much, which makes me annoyed. I'm glad I was drafting him before. I think I'll consider some of the stuff that we're doing here with pairing him with, like, take 1 Ram plus May or 1 Eagle plus May. I think the Eagles work out better. The difficulty with the Rams is, of course, like you said, they might be going to Philly, but they also
we might get a Stafford slide. Sorry.
Yeah, that would be sweet. That's another nice thing about taking the Rams early is Stafford will fall sometimes. But you can get like the Eagles. I would like Patriots, Eagles. The Eagles are probably going to be just full transparency, be my biggest stand. I think the way things have played out for them is like gold in the NFC. Not necessarily for them to score fantasy points because those fuckers don't ever score any fantasy points. So, come on down Luther Burden on a lot of these teams. But I think the run out has been really good for them. And then now I know Devontae went at the 1-2 turn here, which is kind of funky. But a lot of the times Goddard might be one of my highest owned players, if not my highest owned player by the end of this, if I take a big stand on the Eagles, because you can get Goddard here pretty easily. And as we know, the tight end thing is goofy. Hurts falls Sometimes you can get like I said, sometimes you'll get all 5 of the Eagles in the first 5 picks if you try to take it. So we might get Stafford here, which would be nice because then it frees us up on the AFC side.
Yeah, so we got options. If we get Stafford, we got Diggs, we got the Broncos guys. We could go Etienne. Like this is a really nice room for us, no matter what this person does.
So he takes Etienne. I do prefer Diggs to Sutton, but obviously we would have we could do the Broncos stuff we were talking about. But I think you could still have Broncos later that we could build on.
So I'd like to do Stafford Diggs.
That's pretty easily my favorite here.
And then that just keeps us open for Broncos too. Like you said.
Also, I don't have Diggs with the Devontae Kyron start yet here in the Millie. So
it's so nice to get both of your wide receiver spots out of the way. Because there's just this like gross range, and I have ungodly amounts of Parker Washington and Luther Burden right now.
Yes, hold on. Let me show you. Let me show you my Parker Washington exposure. 54% Parker. Washington.
Only 22 on Burden. Okay.
Yeah, it's not high enough, but it's. I haven't built. You built even more like Broncos and stuff than I have. So Burden becomes just like a
me into
cheat code. Yeah, on this. Like it is kind of wild though. That I think that's indicative of the difference. Last year was like now I know Ladd looks bad now, but what Ladd was last year, what Nico was last year, and Nico's still great, but like what Nico was last year. The one-off, what Terry McLaurin was last year, it was like the one-offs were like top 10 wide receivers in fantasy, and Burden might get there next year, right? But like Burden is great. He's not that, and so it's like, but he's like the best one-off, like in terms of like I just need round 1 points. I'm sacrificing this. If they win, great, but if they don't, I don't really care. We're talking about Luther Burden. We're not talking about a second round pick in Lab McConkey or a first round pick in Nico Collins in regular best ball, right? We're talking about a different level of player. So it is like a little bit different this year than it was before. I just don't think there's hardly anyone who scores fantasy points in the play. Like overall, there's just like not a lot of, it's CMC, right? Of course, JSN and Puka. And after that, it's like, I don't know, man, it's a bunch of like, okay guys.
We were chatting tight ends in the Discord, and it was just like, what tight ends do you want? Especially if Kittle gets the bye. And it's like, whichever one falls into the end zone once is fine.
Yep.
So like, I'm taking a lot of Dalton Schultz because why not? But
so the quarterbacks falling in this draft, just by ADP, we could double tap the Jag stuff, BTJ and Parker. Tight end is disgusting, but there's also Brenton Strange to fill the tight end spot if we wanted to do that, or Parkinson.
Why don't you do the Jags? 4 seconds.
I know I'm doing Strange. I want to see. Are you taking Parker straight up over BTJ? Like I have him ranked ahead of BTJ.
Yes,
so, okay, let's see if BTJ falls. BTJ will fall.
Yeah.
Too.
So I probably would have done the 2 wide receivers. But we had 3 seconds left. So
and I was on there. I was filibustering to not take Brian Thomas Jr. Trying to do anything to not get BTJ on this team.
I know, right? But the thing about it is why I would have went there is because I have been seeing Parkinson fall dramatically, and there's rooms like with people that are like, I don't know if they're looking at Tyler Higbee news or like if they're just like, I don't want that guy if I don't have Stafford. But like you can push him, and if you fall back and you got to do Higbee or Ferg to get your Super Bowl, so be it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then we would also have had Strange potentially next round if he fell. But I'm kind of surprised the Jags guy didn't take him, but
I've struggled with some of that little quandary of like BTJ and Parker go right next to each other, but Strange goes very close, but his ADP is technically after, but he's the tight end, which is really valuable. I also just like him better than Brian Thomas Jr. And I'm not really trying. I have plenty of BTJ, trust me, but that is much more so of placing a lot of chips on the Jacksonville Jaguars than it is on Brian Thomas Jr.
Okay, quick talk on a couple of pieces here. I'm probably solo Stafford, and I'm adding a Rams tight end at the end.
Yep.
Okay.
Good with that. I've been. I understand the Higbee stuff. I think Ferguson has sort of proven himself to be a thing. I'm still drafting Ferguson over that. I think, McVay called Higbee a glue guy, which reeks to me of like, come help your buddies and like what's working is working right now with our other 3 tight ends. We're gonna keep rolling with that.
Okay, this is so tough. Thomas, I want Stevenson, but there's also Corum. We have Kyron
because we already have Kyron, so that fills the running back spot for these other 2 Super Bowls. But I just think Ramondre is a straight up better flex play for the
Ramondre gives us the Super Bowl too.
So Ramondre for sure.
Can you switch to finals teams, not show teams?
So
we get a tight end there. We're good. We
Rams
get
tight
a
flex.
We're good.
I would take Brian Thomas Jr. over Blake Corum in the flex, and we already have the 2 running backs, and we already have Kyron, so we kind of need Kyron to do well, and Corum steals away.
I was in a draft yesterday. Corum went undrafted.
Really?
So
the pendulum swing on Blake Corum has been fucking insane.
Now,
he rose up to like 20.
Now, I would speculate the 1 hole takes him here because he did take Parkinson to go with this Puka with this nasty Ravens build, which, I mean, good for you. If you're going to do Ravens, he's probably doing it right with the 2 early one-offs. But I'm totally – and I love this finals teams view, especially when I'm trying to build out 2 matchups. It just helps me keep my mind right.
Yeah, because you can just quickly see, like, okay, what do I need?
Yeah.
Right.
So I wouldn't
need a Rams
mind...
tight end. Then what do you like to do? So we're set, right, with these 2 Super Bowls. We got 2 high quality Super Bowls. We can win the tournament with these 2 Super Bowls once we get Ferguson or whoever at the end. What do you like to do now? Are we just beefing up kind of whatever? Are you adding on more AFC guys? Are you adding on more guys from these teams?
I'm probably just adding players like Colston Loveland just went is somebody I'm really interested in. I want another tight end because if Strange doesn't get a touchdown and we're not in hit, Ferguson isn't going to do a whole lot. I mean, maybe he gets one. I don't want to rely on that.
Yep.
So I'm okay with like another tight end here. Schultz would have been who I went with.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
Those guys are kind of gross now. I like Sharbs. I like DJ Moore. If you wanted, I'm not doing Woody. Are you doing Woody?
Nah, I mean, I had been doing some, but you see 7% here. I'm not going crazy. Like he feels like he should be an advance rate piece, but he also doesn't score fantasy points. And like they're going to play the Ravens or the Steelers. He's probably not going to score very many fantasy points.
Why do I want him? Unless I'm playing the Houston Super Bowl, which I said I'm not. I don't want Woody, so that's why I have 0. So I have 1 maybe.
The other interesting part about this, I'm not saying we should do this, is you can do like some Bills stuff. We can add Booty to this. You could do something with the Bills. We could do Sharbs, right? Like you can do a Ty Johnson plus, or Dawson. Is Dawson Knox gone? Like,
no, he's still here.
I don't mind Dawson Knox because he actually could help us at tight end with the way Kincaid is banged up.
Well, Knox or Gadsden was where I was going to go along with Sharbs.
Let's do Knox. I know it's possible that they play the Patriots, but
that's fine. We want hope getting through.
Right. And so we know we're going to do 1 more. How many receivers do we have total? 4. So let's do Sharbs. Yeah. I like the Sharbs sort of, just one-offy. They could play in the second round, but they could also play in the conference championship game, which is like totally fine, right? Having guys play against each other in the conference championship game. Then, so we need 1 Rams tight end, and then I think some form of wide receiver. It could be just about anything. But what I would say is why I do like the Knox thing is like if you show up to a Bills Super Bowl, but you have the superstar guys from the Rams, it's like, why the hell can't the Stafford, Devontae, Kyron thing be better than some Josh Allen, James Cook permutation of that? And now it's like, this is when we play our wide receiver roulette with the Bills guys, right? Dawson Knox and Ferguson or whatever, our tight end and flex. And then we need a Bills wide receiver that is gross, but like, dude, if the Bills could be like objectively like a double bye team, like in terms of ownership in the finals. And so it's like, congrats, we need a Tyrell Shavers touchdown, but hey, at least Tyrell Shavers touchdown gives us live odds to win $1 million.
Yeah. And that's what we would need. We would need one Bills wide receiver to get us that Super Bowl.
That's correct.
Okay.
Because it's right here. Yeah. Right. So because there's only 4 here, but of course
we got the flex. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We're taking Ferguson or would you take Higbee over Davis Allen?
Yes, absolutely.
If it came to that. Okay. Like do you think I think they're going to make them all 4 active actually, which is crazy.
It's going to be a weird chop of snaps.
Like they're going to deactivate
a wide receiver.
Whittington?
He's returning kicks and stuff.
I know, but Xavier Smith does too. Mumfield gotten too good? You know what I mean? Like I think they deactivate a wide receiver or Ronnie Rivers.
Ronnie Rivers or Corum could go back there.
Roll Corum and
I think Corum's done it.
Yeah, and Rivers has been doing it, but you could just keep Whittington back there and put Xavier Smith or Mumfield or I mean, fuck, Kyron has returned kicks, and I'm sure that they don't.
That was a whole fun.
McVay.
Okay, so let's talk Bills receiver: Shavers, Palmer, Cooks.
What do you like?
I'm just rolling the dice. I had some Gabe Davis. I'm now not taking Gabe or Keon now that they're both inactive again.
I have 1% Palmer and 1% Shavers. Those are the only 2 that I've done. I will say Cooks is listed as a free agent, and I need to make sure
which is really
okay. Funny. So we're taking Ferguson, but we can give ourselves a few moments to.
I don't really care. If you got any sort of a lean, I've been looking at snap shares, and like it's gone up and down. It really hasn't steadied at all. And I was like, oh, is Palmer just going to rise since he came back? And it really hasn't. I don't know.
I've been thinking that Palmer would eventually kind of become that guy, but I'm just not sure. I kind of think it's Shavers. Like I kind of think just like in terms of they trust him the most.
Splash too. Like if somebody gets a 70-yard touchdown, who's it going to be?
Right. Like I know Brandon Cook caught the long pass this week and they've taken some shots to him, but I think it's been out of like desperation rather than Brandon Cook's like earning a whole bunch of stuff. I just think I can't believe it, but like Tyrell Shavers is the guy who has earned like this. Like I know this looks gross, right? But go look at all the Bills. This looks kind of fine for a Bills wide receiver, but I just think he's earned it. And like you said, he's gonna get probably a downfield shot a game and like whatever. This is what you get yourself into when you get into the Bills business. Unfortunately, I will say I like if I can fill out wide. Like say you do the Eagles thing. If you need to backfill, like you can just take Ty Johnson and Dawson Knox instead and not have to play this roulette game, right? You can play the wide receivers from like the Bills, right? Or the 49ers or even like Seattle and Buffalo. Like you can take JSN and Shaheed and you don't have to
Bills wide receivers are like the grossest of a contender.
Yeah.
Because
like ever have there been worse wide receivers on a team like we think can make the Super Bowl worse than this?
Some of those Chief teams were gross after Tyreek stuff, but
that is true. Juju is Juju.
Well,
better?
It's like
is Juju
versus Justin Watson versus Ross. Like I don't know.
Juju and Justin Watson versus Khalil Shakir and Tyrell Shavers is a real battle. You do one more.
Yeah. Can you pull up the comment from O Kalani?
Yes. It's a good question. Great question, actually.
Yeah. So this is about, hey, we need 6 people to fill out a full lineup on DraftKings, but hey, what about a 5-man double buy? Would I do it? Have I done it? Yeah. If it is the Broncos and either of those 2 AFC teams or NFC teams, I wouldn't. I think you need 6 with how cheap the Broncos are and how cheap the Seahawks are, and with just some of those 49er pieces that are late, which is what OMG Fantasy said. But I just want to point out, I completely agree. If it was something last year where Chiefs and Lions are all going early, yeah, 5 could be okay. But it's just such a different market that to this year, unless you get a non-Broncos AFC team in there or something like weird, but
yeah, last year was you always got backed into Brock Wright, Khalif Raymond, the
Tim Patricks of the world,
the Tim Patricks, the guys like Are they going to catch up? Are they going to score a fantasy point? Was those guys? And now some of the Broncos, you don't feel like they're going to score a fantasy point, but like Evan Ingram's going to catch a pass in the Super Bowl if they play, right? Adam Troutman's probably going to catch a pass in the Super Bowl, and Pat Bryant is available in the last round. He might run 90% of routes for the Broncos in a Super Bowl. I also just wanted to hit. I want to be clear. If you have just joined this, we have made sure to talk about this. No one here thinks the Broncos are legit. Neither of us do. We elaborated. You can go back a little bit and listen to kind of how we broke down. It was about the 30-minute mark about how we kind of started to talk about the double bye stuff. It's not that we believe in the Broncos. It's you show me an AFC team that is bulletproof, and you'll be the first one to find them because there are none. They have the bye, which inherently makes it easier for them to make the Super Bowl because they play one fewer game and they have home field advantage, and nobody likes them. They're totally free. You can draft them in every draft that you want. I'm not going to pick them to make the Super Bowl, right? If you put a gun to my head, but we're just we're doing the what do you win if they? Damn it, man! Puka's been going.
Yeah,
I really want to Puka, but we don't believe in the Broncos either. MJM, I promise.
Yeah, they are what they are. We could do. I've been doing CMC personally. I know that's not a thing for you. What do you think about JSN?
Let's do JSN. Let's build Seattle. I don't know if I have a Seattle. Hold on. We can pull it up super quickly, and I can see my playoff combos here. That is not the right. That's King of the Desert. I don't think we want that playoff combo. We're still 7 picks away, so we should be.
Yeah, we got plenty of time.
So, what did we say? Denver. Here's Denver. Denver, Seattle. Scroll. Jesus. 2. I have 2 out of all 6. A very nice 70 teams.
But
I have 2 total, and most of your teams have multiple, so only having it twice and having a lot of Broncos is very low. That's a very low number. So I'm excited to try it.
So do you want to do Seattle, Denver double bye?
Let's do Seattle, Denver double bye.
Okay.
Seattle's technically favored in the season. So holy shit. Okay. Didn't expect this to be the.
This is a cue.
Devontae, Kyron, ETN. Get our quarterback with Stafford or Hurts.
I would probably go Kyron or ETN.
I think so too. Let's actually do ETN because one of the Rams is probably still going to come back to us, and or Stafford and or Hurts.
Because we could take Kyron or Adams here if that's what we're going to do, and then we.
I kind of like
Broncos.
ETN. It gives us obviously that locked in running back, but then I didn't really have a preference amongst the Rams guys, so we can kind of see, and maybe maybe he'll take Kyron here as well, and then we can take Diggs if we want to be the bye guy, or we can go get
Henderson,
Sutton, Harvey, or Travion. Yeah. Okay. So Kyron does go.
I'm Diggs or Sutton.
Let's do Diggs. See if Sutton comes back.
Because
obviously
we
Harvey
might get in this weird Broncos crunch, but then we do have the ripcord of Darnold too.
Exactly. And the running backs are right. Sharbs and Walker later, and tight end we just don't give a fuck about, right? Barner, and like I said, if it has to be Troutman in round 12, it has to be. We can figure out Barner versus Ingram, but whenever.
One of the keys for us might be getting a good tight end.
Yeah, that's true. Define good.
Goddard, Henry.
So Goddard or Henry, right? I think Strange is fine too, but we don't want to go crazy.
Strange and Schultz are fine.
If we take Strange, it does sort of lock us out of I would only want one more Jag. I don't max really like max one. Yeah, max one more Jag, and so that Strange would kind of take us out of the Parker Washington business.
So is this guy gonna get the Rams mega?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to.
Because this guy is not going to take him, but this guy here, this number 2 guy, could snipe him. No, we're obviously not going to.
So we'll go Sutton Harvey.
Oh, Sutton goes.
I'd do
He's-
Harvey
he's-
Goddard.
Yeah, so he's going to take Stafford. Then he shouldn't take Goddard. Yeah, if he's definitely going to take Stafford, right? So his other pick is probably going to would much more likely be Harvey.
Yeah,
or Hunter
Start getting
Henry.
his
Then
AFC.
Yeah, he's very unlikely. And if he takes Goddard, we'll take. That's fine.
Henry.
We'll
I don't know if we want Diggs and Henry. We could.
I think that's okay. I think that's okay.
All right, let's toss Goddard in the queue, and then can we go grab Sharbs in both quarterbacks just so we don't forget? Oh, you're gonna Ken Walker.
I'm just putting him in there. I'll take him in situations if he falls.
Yeah, I will too. I'm more being funny.
What I do like about having Caleb and either Caleb or Jordan Love.
He went Colby. Thank you.
So we could also take. I think Goddard's just more valuable on this team, but I was saying we could take Lawrence and then get a.
I don't want to do the
receiver.
Lawrence thing here. Yeah.
Let's do Goddard.
The only one in the question is do we advance Knicks since the guy took Sutton? But in theory, the Sutton drafter should not want Knicks, if I remember the board.
Yeah, let me just cue some stuff here. What do we say, Bryant? I know.
I see the Pat Bryant question in the chat. We'll talk about it in a second here.
I know I should have just filtered down to those two teams, but that's okay. Barner. I know you mentioned it earlier. I just wanted to touch on it so that I said it out loud on a show. I've been backed into Jaleel McLaughlin on Broncos double by Super Bowls, and I never fucking want that to happen ever again. So I'm doing whatever I can to avoid the making myself feel like Jaleel McLaughlin is a good pick. Let's not do that.
I will, depending on the build and how the room is and what I'm reading, I will flip Harvey and Sutton to avoid that.
This is definitely true. Charles says, in theory, in quotes, are the famous last words of every DK draft. That is.
He did do it. The Sutton guy took Knicks.
Okay, so let me think about this. We have Diggs, Goddard, ETN. So we have a nice little foundation here. Should we just lock Darnold in? I think we need. I
don't think the turn takes him, but it gives us a moment. Also, switch to finals teams. So I think we probably want we need Ken Walker or Charbonnet. So this is a point of, do we want to dip down for Parker Washington or Burden over Ken Walker?
Yes. And I think the correct answer is Burden, given we have ETN.
Yeah, I agree.
Because we could get both. If we take Parker Washington.
I'll take it if they give us Parker, but I want Burden because that also gives us another quarterback out.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah,
for a stack.
Yep.
No, granted, Caleb is rising, but
I mean,
plan our Caleb.
Put the people's feet to the fire too. If Lawrence is still out there, if Parker comes back, right? This guy's probably not going to take Lawrence. I'm not saying he's going to come back here. I'm just saying there's all these weird possibilities. And as Charles says on DraftKings, good luck guessing what's going to happen. This is a sharper room, but still.
Okay, so we next round we really need to get Seattle running back and probably Franklin if he's around.
Yeah, Parker goes. So good thing we took Burden. So yeah, we are building for now. If another Super Bowl arises, cool, but it's not. It's very, very unlikely to, depending upon how many Seahawks we take. But we are building for this Darnold. Right now it is Darnold, RJ Harvey, JSN. So we need tight end and most likely a wide receiver and a Seattle running back is what I suspect this will be.
And unfortunately, this room might just give us both Seattle running backs and we can't take them. Oh, there goes Caleb.
Okay, Caleb gone.
Franklin.
So Franklin, or we're going to have Darnold. So do we want Darnold plus Shaheed or Cup with a Broncos tight end on the other side?
I don't think so because I'd prefer Barner over Ingram.
Okay,
So maybe it's
let's
Ken Walker. I don't know.
let's do Walker.
could
I
go
don't have that.
a bunch of different
I don't have that much. I don't have that much Walker. So I remove Sharps from.
Yep.
It's fine.
So Franklin, if we take him, he's our wide receiver 2, and our Super Bowl is done besides tight end.
Tight end, which we'll wait.
Or what I just noticed is still there is Christian Watson.
Right.
And I think I really want that.
I think Christian Watson gives us the best chance to get this team, other than Zay Flowers, which would be taking on a risk of obviously the Ravens not making it. But Christian Watson, Packers, Bears. Obviously, we're sacrificing a wide receiver to the gods, but our whole goal, we don't give a fuck about that. We're also guaranteeing one of them in round 2, right? So
we should have. If I'd really realized it, we would have taken him ahead.
Yeah, I didn't think about it. But.
Do you want to Quentin Johnston it over Zay?
Probably.
Is Herbert
unless it's
around?
Reed or Dobbs? Oh yeah. What about quarterback?
No, that's why I wanted Love. Oh fuck.
I know. There's so many Broncos and Seahawks still available.
Yeah.
I don't think it was going to matter with Love. But I just didn't want to get into a situation where we were literally completely locked out at quarterback.
It would have been Bryce Young, which would have been terrible.
Which would be awful. Bryce Young, like going to Seattle, or Bryce Young playing Seattle in round 1 or whatever. Like, what did he throw for 50 yards against Seattle? Like, this team would be dead and buried. Obviously Lamar's still around, or at least was before we went. But again, I'm to be also clear, I'm drafting some Ravens right now. I just think
it's fine.
I just think this particular team, and like I said, there's just so like all these Broncos and Seahawks were falling back to us that it gave us so many outs, especially at wide receiver. All right, so we're saving the tight end for round 12, right? Which means we're taking one wide receiver.
Yeah, and I think it's Franklin,
Bryant, or Shaheed.
Franklin. Unless you think Bryant's going to magically come back and usurp him.
Let's do Franklin. I really want the answer to be Shaheed, but
it's just he's just not getting any balls.
So then
let's take Bryant and Shaheed out just real quick.
Yeah. Okay, let's move it over here. Okay. So then we need a wide receiver. One it doesn't have to be a wide receiver.
We need a flex.
But we did Jordan Love and we have Luther Burden. So I think the correct answer here is either Romeo Dobbs or Jaden Reed.
I've been doing Dobbs over Reed. Okay.
I think the correct answer here is Dobbs. With Jordan Love. Yeah, this team rocks. It's chaotic. Anytime you're building Seattle, shitty Seattle and Denver teams, it's going to be chaotic. But I like this.
And it sucked because a lot of the players I like actually went later. Like Charbonnet still being there is absurd.
Yeah.
Stevenson lasted a long time, but we already had Diggs, and I don't really want that on double bye.
No,
but I do think it was a
early. We took early one-offs to set this up, and they fell even further.
They just gave it to us even more.
Yeah.
So I do think that was a mistake. If you want to scroll down to where the guy got Christian Watson, I do think that was our mistake. I think we should have pushed Ken Walker, even if we wanted him.
Yes.
And took Christian Watson there. So that sets up the late Love, and then we don't have to escalate Love.
And if Walker's not there, we can take Sharps, right? Instead,
or Franklin, or like whoever it ended up being. And then we could have done like Sharps and Pat Bryant or whatever. I'm Barner.
Easily Barner over Ingram. Particularly on this team, if you have, it sort of depends, like, right, what your finals matchup is, which we can pull that up real quick and we can show you. So of course we built this double bye Super Bowl, again, planning for Seattle to win this week. The whole, if they lose, who cares? Like
it's still very live.
This team is
the cool thing about those types of teams.
That's what I love about the double bye teams. If you build them, right, obviously we sacrificed either Love, Dobbs, or Luther Burden, right, in this, but like that's fine. Like that's totally fine. It's going to help us get out of round one no matter what. In the like you said, in the case that Seattle doesn't get the bye, fine. Oh no, we get JSN and Ken Walker and everything for round one against the Panthers. Like, I think we'll be okay with that. But I think we built a really good double bye team here. There were some hurdles throughout the draft, but I think it turned out great. Like, here's the Super Bowl: Seattle, Denver, with Darnold, Ken Walker, RJ Harvey, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Troy Franklin, AJ Barner. I think the only person you would like, if you dreamed up your perfect Super Bowl, right? Which this is like really hard to get this team, would be Sutton over Franklin. This is every single one of the highest projecting Knicks. It would be Nick Sutton over Darnold Franklin is like the only way you could get a higher projecting.
In like, okay, Sutton, you're dropping Diggs to Booty. Like, that's a gap on a double bye team.
Huge.
So the interesting thing about this, that was a lot of mental gymnastics for the two of us. Obviously, we're trying to articulate conversation and stuff here, so it's like maybe a little bit easier on your toilet. But right,
what isn't? But like, what isn't? If we're being honest,
people are gonna fuck these up. And apparently, we hit the over 2.5 fucks during the draft, according to Rick. Yes, probably. So people are gonna mess these up hardcore because, like, if you do the 49ers, like, hey, let me knock in some 49ers. Oh, then I'm going to do late Broncos. And I just fill it out in between. With the two teams we just did, it's every round. It's like, do I do them here? Do I push them? It's going to be a lot of pin pull. And I'm sorry that the drafting community on DraftKings is not going to be able to do that very well.
No, because we can't. And this is what we do nonstop. And we're thinking about it for like constantly. And there's two of us. So we actually have two brains to work on it at the same time. And it was still and we have a tool that's telling us right live during the draft. And it's still very difficult to pull off. That's why when we did all this, when we talked for this hour and a half about like all these different strategies, it's like a lot of it is that like, these aren't slow drafts. You don't get to do slow drafts. So like you have to be able to execute this shit too. And it's not easy. It's really not easy. And like, as Charles said, the DK drafters are absolutely crazy, but I think we pulled it. Like, could this be 1% better, 2% better, 5%? Sure. Yes. I agree with the Christian Watson thing. You could have a slightly better Super Bowl by a very small margin, right? Troy Franklin is an upgrade, but like who really That is very, 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 very well played.
That is honest. That is the new. Like, I had to go to the ER, but it's just a little bit gone. Just a little bit.
Two girls, two girls. Jesus, my brain's in the gutter. Two brains, 19.75 fingers is what it is. 19.75. But anyway, I just want to. We outlined that Super Bowl. Feel really good. I mean, feel really good about if that were the Super Bowl, having that team there. Don't feel good about that being the Super Bowl. To reiterate, we don't really think Seattle and Denver are good or going to make the Super Bowl, but I think it's an advantageous way to draft. The round one team, which is right. So the flip side of the double bye thing is you have to be able to advance. Some tournaments on Underdog are 2 out of 6 advance. So you're a little bit more free. I still think people take that a little too liberally. Like you still have to beat 4 teams and you have a bunch of guys who aren't playing. Like you're still pretty unlikely to make it, but it's a little bit easier. 1 out of 6 is so hard to advance when half your team is out. You obviously legitimately need these 6 guys, but I think it's a pretty damn good 6 that we put together here. Jordan Love at quarterback facing the Bears, right? That seems fine.
That's fine
to me. Stacked with Romeo Doubs and Luther Burden on the other side of that game. So let's get some fireworks in that game with 3 guys who can absolutely score plenty of fantasy points. Travis Etienne at running back. One of the best fantasy running backs in the playoffs, right? There's CMC.
Especially when you consider the bye.
Yeah, exactly. When we remove RJ Harvey, who we of course have, and when we remove Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet, why can't Travis Etienne put up a totally solid score here? And then so we have those other 2 wide receivers. So we'll bump Stephon Diggs to the flex. Stephon Diggs. That seems great, like a great option to have. And Dallas Goedert. Other than George Kittle, might be the best fantasy tight end, probably is the best fantasy tight end in the playoffs. I think this is a really good team. a really good way to build a double bye.
I'm excited about that team. I am not excited to watch the Super Bowl if that is the game.
Yeah,
unless we have a Millie on the
so you saw the guy that won the DK Millie went to the Falcons Rams game. It would be like if someone gave me the tickets to the Super Bowl, right? I'm not sure that I would go to sweat this out because I would have to watch Sam Darnold against Bo Nix and these two awful teams.
I mean, parking and traffic seems like a big hassle at that Super Bowl. Like, I don't know if I want to deal with that.
Agree with Stat. That's what we're talking about here, right? Is like and not even just like lots of different combos. If you want to, like, you could straight up build 100% double bye teams. And I built, now you won't actually achieve it because things will happen in that draft, right? But you could go and just say, I'm going to shove all my chips in on the double bye teams, and I'm just mathematically, I'm probably going to get some through. Right. And if that's the Super Bowl, I'm going to win all the money. And that's sort of what I did last year. Obviously, it wasn't the Super Bowl, but it still worked out last year. And so you can do a lot of different things. You don't have to draft for all the different combos, but you also don't have to try to predict the Super Bowl. And that's kind of what we're talking about here is I have my picks. Like, I think it's going to be Rams or Eagles, and Patriots or Jags actually would be my pick amongst the teams. But like, who am I to say? I don't know. Like, I can't predict this stuff, none of us really can. So playing into some of the combos of teams that other people are not building together, like this one we did here.
Yeah. The one hole got the mega Rams. Actually, I noticed while you're chatting there.
Yep. Parkinson.
Full lineup of Rams.
See, this is too much. This is ruining it.
Yeah.
Even took Higbee, and you have a bye week player. That's
too much. People do it. I agree. It is too much.
So, like, even if you make the Super Bowl with this team, your best option. I'm sorry, Ryan. I apologize.
But it's a good team to talk about because we see people overstacking, is what I like to call it, a lot in playoffs. And I think this is over.
Stop it. Even if you want to do so, first of all, I would actually skip Parkinson and double back for a Ferguson or something like that if I needed the Rams tight end later. But the Parkinson thing is defensible. But like you outlined, he falls a lot.
It's at pick 25. You pulled him up.
He passed, right? So you could get Hunter Henry on the opposite side of a Super Bowl. Hunter Henry is a better fantasy asset in every regard. He gives you that player to start to build out that Super Bowl at a position of need. We don't like the Bills guys so much, but Hampton, Derrick Henry, Lab McConkey, there's Brenton Strange, right? Parker Washington, Brian Thomas. There's like so many options that would still achieve your goals. But even if we defend but then to take Corum, I think is just like you're sacrificing. What did we lose out on? Probably not a ton, but the Jags guys, right? Like take your Jags guys, take your Broncos guys, like we took.
Especially if you're gonna Higbee at the end, like the world is your oyster with Hunter, Parker, any of them. And
you took Woody, so you clearly already started the Texans thing. Right?
Yeah.
Like now do Schultz instead, right? Of Blake Corum or whatever. The tight end thing is going to be important for you. It's this is like had the makings of an absolutely awesome team that it's so easy to give into that temptation of they gave me another Ram. They gave me another Ram. They gave me another Ram. Right. And it's like, but you got them. You did it. You achieved once you got the big four, like once you get the big four Rams, it's like
you won.
It's over. You got the gold. You got the golden goose, dude. You don't need a second golden goose. Like Colby Parkinson may be useless or whatever. So that's that. And again, it's a little bit different in right Underdog or whatever. 2 out of 6 advance with only 10 guys. Like things can be a little bit different, but DraftKings is trickier.
Yeah. DraftKings is trickier, which is why I like it. Somebody also asked if either of us made it to the playoff best ball finals. I had one in the DK Millie. Or I guess it wasn't a Millie, DK 500K last year. You had what, 2 or 3?
I had three in the Millie. 2 could field a full Super Bowl. I got like in the top 100. I min cashed and one. So the third team was Washington Chiefs. They were all Chiefs.
Yeah.
The third team was Washington Chiefs, which is like fucking everybody's.
That's what I had. Washington Chiefs. It was Detroit Washington Chiefs is actually what mine was. So I got a Detroit Chiefs team to the Super Bowl last year.
Me too.
In the double bye scenario.
Me too.
Because of the Washington stuff.
But then I had Eagles. Actually had Saquon, but I used Saquon. So this is actually great to close on. In this example, like this team that we were building here, I got 3 teams to the finals. Two of which were like what I would call essentially live, but two of them were double buys. They were actually Lions Chiefs, and I used Eagles as one-offs to get me one-offs, or I believe one of them was like Devontae and Saquon or whatever, and then I had 4 Chiefs on the other side with of course I had 2 Lions. So anyway, one team didn't have a tight end, and it was a double buy. I specifically remember trying to get Noah Gray or whatever it was and get somebody like sniping Noah Gray from you, which is like I think it's time for a new hobby when you're mad
out of your basement
when you're mad about Noah Gray being taken from you. But then the other team was like, I don't know, it was like it was far from the nuts, but it was like I don't know, top 100, and it was like Mahomes, Saquon. I think it was relying upon somebody bad, one of the really bad wide receivers, whether it was like Juju or Dotson or whatever, so it didn't quite have the legs, but it was like Mahomes, Kelsey, Worthy, Saquon, dude, he's got that team there. And it was because of exactly what we just did right here, dipping in and out of those builds. We see all your questions. We are going to be doing plenty more drafts next week. So Bernie has out his power rankings for this week. I got to get my kind of updated status check-in on the playoff best ball stuff a little bit later today. So be on the lookout for that. You get all of that, plus these tools that you're seeing here. You want to have all this fun stuff on your screen while you're drafting with the Draft Hacker. It comes again with the Spike Week Premium subscription in the description of this video. Anything else you got before we get out of here?
There's a lot of great stuff in the chat line we didn't get to. Also, you can get with premium, you get access to the Discord, and we can just chat playoff best ball all day, all day, all time, all day, and we will like we do. And like I don't know, I've been there like 20 hours a day. You're in there about that much. Like we can talk through any of the stuff y'all want to talk through.
100%. Join us in there and join us next week. We will be back. Hopefully, I think Rob will be back next week. I don't know. Bernie tried to chop off his finger. Rob might be losing a leg, I think, this week from his infection.
I don't want to say that because that's too close to call for me.
Agreed. Hit the like on the way out. We'll see you guys next week and enjoy the games. Good luck in week 18 if you're grinding out week 18, but we'll see you guys in week 19. Cheers.
Woo! Those were some spicy takes. Want to stay up to date with all of the other spicy takes we're going to have over here at Spike Week? Why don't you press that subscribe button below? You turn notifications on, we draft a team, boom, you know about it. We have another spicy take, boom, you know about it. You can be there. You can draft with us. You want to stay up to date? That's how you do it. All right, we'll catch you later next time here at Spike Week.